Ladies and gentlemen, a D.C. judge wants the Justice Department to release the full unredacted memo clearing President Trump of obstruction of justice. I'll explain to you in this segment why that's absurd, and there was no evidence. There was never any evidence to investigate President Trump. I will read you the two intelligence reports or disclaimers from the two intelligence reports that serve as the basis for the Mueller probe. And then I'll also read you from the Mueller probe the fact that there's no evidence. So we'll start with the Mueller probe first. So this judge says, well, we want to see the full. It's disingenuous that William Barr didn't release the full unredacted decision or memo as to why Trump wasn't charged with obstruction. Number one, he wasn't guilty of any crime. Number two, you can't obstruct a crime if there's no evidence that you committed the crime. Now what they've done is they said, well, we couldn't find him on working with Russian intelligence officials to pay for Facebook ads or to swing 2016 to defeat Clinton and Democrats. So we couldn't find him guilty of what we've been saying he's been guilty of, with a dossier that was purchased by Clinton and the DNC it's completely discredited now, and a third-party tech firm that doesn't have any direct evidence of any foul play. So we can't fall back on the intelligence reports because 18 Russian intelligence officials were indicted on Company One's evidence, not the United States government. So, I mean, I say this all the time, but I'm going to read you. You'll see the links. I'm following YouTube policies. You'll see the links below. If there's anybody that has any questions pertaining to the William Barr memo, you should send them this video. You have 3 links that answer everything that the judge in this case should read. Number 1, this is from the Mueller probe, page 17. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. The links will be below, and you could use this to refute any person who's ignorant enough to believe that Trump worked with Russia because our wonderful intelligence agencies say so. The same wonderful, very brilliant intelligence people who've been wrong on every major decision from the Bay of Pigs to the Gulf of Tonkin to WMD, now Facebook ads, and a whole bunch of other things before the Facebook ads. But here, page 17 of the Mueller probe. Second, while the investigation identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign, the evidence was not sufficient to support criminal charges. He said the judge ignored the fact that Mueller stated the evidence was not sufficient. In other words, it was insufficient. But they didn't want to use insufficient because that would be too categorical of a statement. So they have to say, well, it was not sufficient, although, there's got to be something up there. Among other things, the evidence was not sufficient to charge any campaign official as an unregistered agent of the Russian government or the Russian principal. Okay, so they couldn't even find anyone on an unregistered agent with the same laws that they're trying to go after Giuliani, same laws that they're using to try to go after Giuliani. And they still can't find anything to charge him with. Quote, and our evidence about the June 9, 2016 meeting and releases of hacked material was not sufficient to charge a criminal campaign finance violation. So they couldn't get Donald Trump Jr. Okay? He didn't do anything wrong. Further, the evidence was not sufficient to charge that any member of the Trump campaign conspired with representatives of the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. So then they say something, you want to talk about disingenuous. Third, the investigation established that several individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign lied to the office. There were numerous people associated with the Clinton campaign who lied to the FBI, but they weren't charged with anything. So you have to treat both sides equally under the law, and they didn't. They never do. But here, and to Congress about their interactions with Russian-affiliated individuals in related matters. Those lies materially impacted the investigation of Russian election interference. How so? How so when you didn't have any digital evidence, any cyber evidence, any money trail, no photographs, no intelligence officials who worked with any American associated with Trump, nobody in Trump's campaign indicted, no evidence that was sufficient to link anyone associated with Trump? I mean, you're talking about billions upon billions of dollars the intelligence agencies have. 30 billion just with the 3 intelligence agencies that are linked in the ODNI report. You couldn't find one shred of evidence, one email, one photo, one name, one, link to money. And nobody at Facebook, by the way, since they bought Facebook ads. The office charged some of the lies as violations of the federal false statement statute. So they charged who? Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos. All 3 had nothing to do with any Russian intelligence officials. Like I said, hit subscribe to this channel right now. I wrote a lot about this in the Federalist, by the way. So check out my writing on the Durham Probe on hagoodman.com. You could read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, other publications, and see my debates as well. To my Patreons, thank you. My new Patreons. So, former National Security Advisor pleaded guilty to lying about his interactions with the Russian ambassador. So that was not consequential to any of this. But, of course, they say it is, even though they didn't get him on anything to do with lying to, working alongside Russian intelligence officials. That's number one. There was nobody who worked alongside Russia, which is exactly what they were trying to say and what they've been saying for 3 years. The link will be below. Okay? The evidence was insufficient. Insufficient, ladies and gentlemen. Insufficient. So you have the Mueller probe right here. Now I'll give you the disclaimer for the FBI and Department of Homeland Security. That's the December 29, 2016. They didn't have any information even before the 2018 Mueller probe, or 2019 Mueller probe. Okay, but here, disclaimer, this report is provided as is for informational purposes only. The Department of Homeland Security does not provide any warranties of any kind regarding any information contained within. Why doesn't DHS provide any warranties? Oh, that's right, because they're not to be utilized as anything other than just information from the United States government. Why? So they don't get sent to court. Because these are bureaucratic agencies within the U.S. government, run by people who know that any wrong declaration could lead to them defending themselves in a court of law. There was never any evidence of Trump Russia. They made it up. There was no evidence of WMD. There was no the evidence pointing to the Bay of Pigs and Gulf of Tonkin proved that we shouldn't have engaged in what those intelligence assessments led us into. So you utilize these are clandestine agencies that issue reports to justify misguided, oftentimes devastating, especially in terms of the Gulf of Tonkin and WMD. Okay, so devastating, horrendous outcomes. Wars, for example. So let's continue. Okay, so this document is distributed as, subject to information may be distributed without restrictions. DHS does not endorse any commercial product or service referenced in this advisory or otherwise. Why wouldn't you endorse your own report talking about a joint analysis of DHS and the FBI? The document provides technical details regarding the tools and infrastructure used by the Russian civilian and military services to compromise and exploit networks. With the U.S. election as a range of U.S. government, political, and private sector entities. Well, wait a second. You mean you don't stand by your report on how the Ruskies and Putin infiltrated our pristine democracy? Why don't you stand by your report? Oh, that's right. A lot of it is false and made up, or exaggerated, or sensationalized, and you didn't want to get sued by people like Michael Flynn, and George Papadopoulos, and Carter Page, and Roger Stone, and Manafort, and everyone who got caught up in a government tinfoil hat fantasy, a government-inspired tinfoil hat fantasy. This report is for informational purposes. DHS does not endorse any commercial product or service referenced in this advisory or otherwise. The Department of Homeland Security does not provide any warranties of any kind regarding any information contained within. No warranties? You mean you're not certain about the major conclusions? You mean you can't use this to indict people in a court of law? Why didn't the judge today, or any judge within the United States of America, indict anyone based on an intelligence report? Why didn't they indict Russian intelligence officials based on U.S. intelligence reports? Oh, that's right. And this is the ODNI report, background to assessing Russian activity and intentions in the recent U.S. election, 2016. Oh, wow. This is a treasure trove of Putin madness. Oh, what's this? Estimative language. This is the disclaimer at the end. What if somebody told you, I really love you, honey. I love you. I want to be with you for the rest of my life. Do you mean that? Do you really mean that? Yes, of course. Annex B, estimative language, consists of two elements: judgments about the likelihood of developments or recent or events occurring, and levels of confidence in the sources and analytic reasoning supporting the judgments. Judgments are not intended to imply that we have proof to show something to be a fact. Assessments are based on collected information, which is often incomplete or fragmentary, as well as logic, argumentation, and precedence. They had nothing ever. It was always gut feeling. Oh, just we're suspicious. That's it. How could Trump have obstructed a process that was completely fabricated to begin with? Or a process based on fabricated nonsense? This is just as bad as the Steele dossier because people take it seriously, if not worse. Judgments of likelihood, the chart below, there's literally a color chart here. Almost no chance, remote, almost certainly, nearly certain. Judgments of likelihood. The chart below approximates how judgments of likelihood correlate with percentages. Phrases such as we judge and we assess in terms like probable and likely convey analytical assessment. That's the only thing they have in these reports. Confidence in the source of supporting judgment. Confidence levels provide assessments of the quality and quantity of the source information. Consequently, we ascribe high, moderate, or low levels of confidence to the assessment. The best that they could come up with is high confidence. Generally indicates that judgments are based on high-quality information. High confidence in a judgment does not imply that the assessment is a fact or a certainty. Such judgments might be wrong. There you go. So why should William Barr be forced to disclose anything to anybody? Or why should the DOJ be forced to disclose why they didn't charge Trump? It was Mueller who decided not to and sent it to William Barr. Mueller never had anything. Democrats and intelligence reports and media never had anything. This was the original sin. If they want to talk about the big lie, this is the biggest lie. You set the groundwork for distrust and suspicion based on lies and hyperbole and high to moderate confidence level assessments, and then you say, well, we couldn't find anything on Trump, but we don't like that he obstructed the process of the investigation based on tinfoil hat theories. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Their last refuge is bureaucracy. And the Supreme Court would strike this down in a second, or whatever they're up to, because he should never have been investigated anyway. He did nothing wrong. Russia didn't interfere, not even one Facebook ad. Not one person switched their votes because of a Facebook ad. There's no evidence that anyone looked at a Facebook ad and said, I like Trump better than Clinton. Give me your thoughts below. And furthermore, they never had any evidence to investigate anyway. This was to save face because they were it was a catastrophic political slaughter. And they spent 4 years blaming Russia, and they still don't have any evidence. And now they're still going back to, he obstructed our process into trying to torment him. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Thank you.